All right, let's journey back in time. We're going to the late 19th century to meet a group of artists who basically looked at reality and said, you know what, we can do better. So let me start by asking you something. What if a painting could show not just what we see, but what we feel? What if it could capture the world inside your head, your dreams, your anxieties, all those deep down emotions? Well, that one radical idea, it sparked a whole new movement in art.
See, back then, art was pretty much all about capturing the real world. You had movements like realism and impressionism, and their whole deal was painting what you could see with your own two eyes: a landscape, a bustling street, a bowl of fruit on a table. But a new wave of artists came along, and they were like, that's kind of missing the point, isn't it? They wanted to paint the soul.
And that rebellion? It got a name: symbolism. The whole point wasn't to make a perfect photograph of reality. Nope, the idea was to use colors, lines, and even the subjects themselves as symbols for bigger ideas and feelings. This was a huge shift in what people thought art was for.
So where do we start? Our first stop is going to be Paris, a city of incredible highs and lows, dazzling lights, and really deep shadows. And our guide through this world is the one and only Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec.
Oh, you've definitely seen his work, even if his name doesn't ring a bell. Toulouse-Lautrec was pretty much the king of documenting Parisian nightlife. I mean, his posters for places like the Moulin Rouge, they just scream with this wild, electric energy of the whole cabaret scene. They're so full of life.
But here's the thing that makes him so interesting, what makes him a symbolist. It's not just the posters. It's what he painted after the show, when the curtain came down. He was totally fascinated by the performers in their quiet, unguarded moments. He wanted to show the real person, the tiredness, the humanity that was hiding behind all that spectacle. And this painting, The Laundress, is a perfect example. I mean, look at it. It's not glamorous at all, is it? It's just a quiet, private moment of pure, bone-deep exhaustion. You can literally feel the weight of her long day just from looking at her posture. He's not painting her job. He's painting how she feels. He's painting her internal world. Okay, so if Toulouse-Lautrec opened the door to the inner world, our next artist blew it right off its hinges. Let's talk about the Norwegian painter Edvard Munch, who took this whole turn inward thing to a completely different level of intensity. So here he is, Edvard Munch. And early on, he painted stuff like this piece on the right, Rue Lafayette. It's a pretty standard impressionist-style view of a Paris street, right? He's just watching the world go by from a balcony, capturing a little slice of city life. But trust me, his art was not going to stay here for long. Why? Because for Munch, the outside world was just a trigger. The real drama, the important stuff, was all happening inside his head. His real subjects weren't streets and buildings. They were love, jealousy, loneliness, anxiety, despair. He wanted to get the raw, unfiltered experience of being human down on the canvas. And in this painting, Jealousy, you can see that shift happening in real time. Look how the details of the room, the background, it's all just kind of dissolving, melting away. All we're left with is this raw, all-consuming emotion. That tormented face in the front, he isn't just in the scene, he pretty much is the scene. The feeling of jealousy has completely taken over the entire painting. And that, of course, brings us here, to one of the most iconic images ever made in the history of art. Just take a second and look at it. That swirling blood-red sky, that distorted, almost skeletal figure. This isn't a painting of a place. This is a painting of a feeling. It's a panic attack on canvas. But here's the twist, the part that everyone gets wrong, and we know this from Munch's own words. He wrote, "I felt the great scream throughout nature." So get this, the figure isn't screaming. They're covering their ears, trying to block out a horrible sound. It's the sound of nature itself screaming. This painting is about pure, universal anxiety. All right, let's switch gears and head over to Germany. We're going to meet an artist who tapped into the subconscious using a totally different toolkit, myth and fantasy. Meet Franz von Stuck. So Stuck actually started his career as a caricaturist, doing illustrations, but his art completely evolved. Just look at the jump from that early stuff to his painting Salome, wow. It's dark, it's opulent, it's absolutely dripping with symbolism. You can see him go from making these witty little observations about society to creating these heavy, almost dreamlike worlds that dig into themes like power and obsession.
Stuck was obsessed with this idea of the femme fatale, the powerful, dangerous woman. He would pull figures from myths and from the Bible, characters like Salome or the Sphinx or Eve, and use them to explore these primal urges, things like desire, sin, and danger that he felt were always bubbling just under the surface of polite society. And see, for the symbolists, these weren't just old stories. They were like maps to the human subconscious.
So you might be wondering, where did all this come from? It didn't just pop up out of nowhere. To really get the symbolists, we actually have to rewind the clock a bit and look at a group of artists in Britain who were kind of planting the seeds for all of this decades earlier. They had this amazing name, the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Basically, they thought the art of their time had gotten really stale and frankly kind of boring and artificial. They wanted to go back to the way art was before the great master, Raphael. Back to a time of intense detail and real, raw emotion. These guys loved big stories, poetry, and powerful feelings. And this right here might be their most famous painting of all. It's Ophelia by John Everett Millais. It's from Shakespeare's Hamlet, of course, but it's so much more than just a picture of a scene from a play. It's become this powerful symbol of tragic beauty, of lost innocence, of madness. And get this. Every single flower you see floating in that water was picked for a very specific symbolic reason.
And this is what's so wild. Look at how powerful and lasting this one image is. On the left, you've got the original painting from 1852. And on the right, that's the album cover for a song by Nick Cave and Kylie Minogue from 1995. Think about that. More than 140 years later, that exact image is still the go-to symbol in pop culture for beautiful, tragic death.
So, when you put it all together, from the quiet sadness of a performer in a Paris nightclub, to the pure anxiety on a Norwegian bridge, to the mythological nightmares in Germany, the symbolists completely changed the game. They changed what a painting was for. Art wasn't just a mirror reflecting the outside world anymore. It became a window you could use to look inside. And that leaves us with a really big question. The same one these artists basically forced the world to grapple with. If art's job isn't just to show us the world exactly as it is, then what should it be? What is its real purpose? What are we supposed to get from it? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining me on this one.